I got the invitation to go on this Armed Lutheran radio show, though. You know this guy? Have you seen this? There's two things that I would like to say that make me feel safe. Number one, the fact that there is a radio show called the Armed Lutheran Podcast somewhere in the world. That makes me feel safe.
Bringing you law, gospel, and guns. This is Armed Lutheran Radio.
Hey folks, welcome to another episode of Armed Lutheran Radio, a show about guns, hunting, competitive shooting, the natural right of self-defense, and what God's Word says about the issues surrounding gun rights and gun ownership. I'm your host, Lloyd Bailey, the Armed Lutheran, and this is episode number 475, 25 away from our goal of reaching episode 500. As I've said, there's a lot of content on the website. There's probably more than 500 at this episodes at this point, because I've done a bunch of special episodes and midweek things, and I changed the numbering. Officially, this is probably, or unofficially, this is probably over 500. I'll have to double check, but it's officially number 475. Thank you for making Armed Lutheran Radio a part of your week. Welcome to all of those who are new, and welcome back to all of those who are longtime listeners or even short-time listeners. Glad to have you here. Thank you to all of our Reformation Gun Club members, the men and women who help keep the lights on and put their money where their mouth is and make all of this possible. Check out the website, armedlutheran.us, armedlutheran.com, armedlutheran.net. It all goes to the new website at Libsyn, where our content is hosted. Reformation Gun Club is at reformationgunclub.com if you would like to help support the show and get an invitation to what we're doing today for upcoming episodes. Today is our January 2026 online hangout. It's our first online hangout of the new year. And that means we're going to get to meet and talk to some of the members of the Reformation Gun Club, the awesome people who keep the lights on here and help make this show possible. And like I said, if you would like to join them, if you would like to become a Reformation Gun Club member, visit reformationgunclub.com, and you can donate any amount and make it a monthly contribution. You can make it a yearly contribution, or whenever you feel like it, whatever you decide to spend, we certainly do appreciate, and it helps to keep all of this going. All right, so let's see who we have got with us today. We have Curtis, Donny, David, and Tim joining us today so far. Waiting for Donnie's audio to connect. Tim is hiding out in the woods again. How is everybody?
Great. Wunderbar.
David's audio is not connected yet. Still says he is unmuted, or he's muted. Well, all right, we'll get started. And David's audio hopefully will get squared away. And hopefully we'll have some more people join in. Curtis, how are you? Good to see you.
Good. Good to be here.
What have you been up to?
Hanging out, doing nothing.
Well, that's not a bad way to live. Wish I could say the same. Tim, what's up with you in the Redwood Forest is that a hobbit behind you? What is that peering over your shoulder?
Oh, golly, I don't know.
Oh, it's just some dude hanging out in the woods with you.
Some dude, yep, some dude in my Radio Shack here. That's where I usually do my video calls from. Well, let me think. What is going on? Our Department of Emergency Management is starting to get a little, well, let's say more interested in managing emergencies. So we're getting ready and doing more drills and training and that sort of a thing. I'm on the alternate communications side of it. That is when everything dies and the only thing we have is sunlight. And in Washington, sometimes we don't even have that. We can still set up radio communications, both digital and voice. So we do it in all kinds of weird ways and weird places and try to make it fail. And when it fails, we figure out ways to unfail it. So see that. And I just got off range officer today, and it was a really wet kind of a cool day. So not too many people turned up. So everybody left with the same number of holes they came there with.
That's the important thing.
That is.
Donny, how are you, sir?
Oh, pretty good. I had surgery 9 days ago now, so I'm bionic on both hips now. Went really well.
Do you make that noise when you run now?
I don't run quite yet. Today's the first day I've walked. I try and get 10,000 steps in a day. It's the first day I've walked without the walker. I'm using just a cane now. And, I'm still about 165 pounds, which is about 90 pounds less than my highest weight I've had. And, feeling pretty good. Pain levels were low. I didn't have to use any of the narcotic stuff. And so come next Thursday, I should be able to drive again.
Good.
But I've been going to the mall. It's been extremely cold here. We didn't get the snow or the ice or anything like that, but we got the cold. It's I think 5 out right now. So,
Lord.
So I'm thankful for my wonderful wife who will run me around. And today I said, I just need to go and walk someplace. So she dropped me off, went and got groceries, and picked me up afterwards.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, you must be doing pretty well if she can just drop you off somewhere and not worry that you're going to get hurt. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's weird that you didn't get this crazy. Curtis, did you get the crazy weather up where you are?
We had like about 10 inches of snow, and it was pretty darn cold, and it's getting cold again for the next couple of days.
Gotcha. Tim, how about you? Any?
Well, actually, we're kind of immune to all that nonsense. It's like anywhere from 30 to 50 degrees all the time around here in the winter.
Washington's got that weird, wet, year-round wet weather.
It beats freezing.
It does. David, how are you, sir?
Doing very well indeed.
Good to see you. How you been? What have you been up
to? Spending a lot of time at church this last week. We had a fire in the church.
Oh.
Took out our children's educational building.
Oh, no.
We have a 200 student school. And it wiped. So those were mostly housed in a building with three, from preschool to middle school.
Okay.
Mostly housed in a building with 3 floors, classrooms. And there was a HVAC fire a week ago Wednesday. And it, had it started earlier, it would have probably gotten to the gas line and blown up a lot of stuff.
Oh.
Had it started later, there would have been children in the building. But as it was, neither occurred. And but it took out the 3rd floor, and of course, water and soot and smoke took out 2nd and 1st.
Yeah. Any of it salvageable or no? Probably.
Yes, structurally.
Oh, okay.
It's a concrete block structure, mostly block, I believe. But it's primarily concrete structure. So we were talking about doing some renovations there anyway.
So, this speeds up the process.
Yeah, we were talking about renovation and expansion for that facility. So anyway, but it did not. Although it took out 25% of our floor of our buildings, but 50% of our educational space. So shifted the school over to the adult educational facilities.
That was my next question: is what are you doing for the kids now?
Well, our chapel, which was the previous sanctuary, but our chapel has now been hastily converted to student area. And children are in the adult facility. Oddly enough, the choir room, of which I'm, a constant attendee, but choir room was not that building was the old building was not bothered. So life goes on, and our newest building, which is a multi-purpose facility, was not bothered. So we were able to get Wednesday night activities going. Again, Wednesday. Last Sunday we were out because of ice.
That was
and
my
this
next
Sunday,
question.
Yeah. This Sunday if it doesn't snow us out. Of course, Donny and you guys, I got to laugh because I'm from the greater Cincinnati area, and what they consider snow here is like, just don't bother me, child. From the area that I grew up in, and you would say, just what?
Mm-hmm.
You would not think it's even anything to especially if you've had hip replacements and you're out walking around and it's 5 degrees outside. This is nothing. This is this is nothing like you're dealing with. And but God is good. Nobody was hurt.
Lord for that.
You bet. And looks like we're going to be back in going on. Adult life group Sunday school classes are the thing that has been left without a home. So that will be solved in another week or two. So, we're getting that moving right along. But I've been up there and messing around, and this is the beginning of my choir season. So I've had a lot of meetings, a lot of rehearsals to get things kicked off. I audition one of my ensembles during this time of year, and that's always
with all the other nonsense that's going on.
Yeah. So it's interesting.
The company I work for is in Ohio, so
okay.
I love to razz them about the weather, because when I say, "Man, it's cold down here," and they're like, "Yeah, right."
Where in Ohio?
They're in, is it Mentor? It's up in the Cleveland area.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I'm not familiar with that name.
It's Mentor is, I went to school at Case Western. So Mentor is on the west side of Cleveland, on the lakefront, I think.
Yeah.
So, and then we have programmers over in Massachusetts, and they were talking about, how many times they had to shovel snow this week.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, I grew up with that kind of mess.
Yeah.
I got a friend of mine who lives up there in Columbus, Cleveland area, and he was, he took a picture outside his house, and snow's up over his head.
Yeah. Crazy. Glad I don't have to. We're just now getting, we lost a week of school, and because of all the ice, really, didn't really snow. Fortunately, it wasn't the kind of stuff that pulls down power lines. It was all frozen by the time it hit the ground, instead of being wet and then freezing on the power lines. So no problem with power for a change. That was nice.
Great.
But, nice thick layer of ice with a little tiny layer of snow on top. And
so do you do preps?
They prep the main roads, brine, I think, and the main road. I went out for the first time yesterday, and the main roads were not bad. The side roads and the neighborhoods like mine, not great when I went out. By the time I got back a couple of hours later, they were all, you could actually see the pavement. But, ruts of where you can see the pavement, where the tires have all gone, and then big, gigantic mounds of snow in between that you have to try to navigate. So, but we'll be back.
Makes it hard to turn out of the lane sometimes.
Yes. Going straight on the main roads, no problems. Changing lanes, no problems. Turning and getting onto the side roads, a little bit of a challenge. And the parking lots were not great, and we're at the bottom of a hill, so there's no way to get out of our neighborhood without going up a hill. There's two different roads that connect at the end of either end of our street and go uphill. And
that's our church's challenge here in Atlanta, in Kennesaw, is that the church is physically, you have to go either up or down a hill in our parking lot to get to any of our facilities. Except for one entrance, but basically even there, I guess you're on a grade. But so if it's slippery, you just don't want to have the liability and risk to tell people that you need to come out. So
yeah, the church I grew up in was exactly like that. Both entrances were up a steep grade, and it was on everything. The church, the parsonage, and the cemetery are sitting on a nice flat piece of ground, but it's at the top of a hill. So there's no way to get to it.
I was talking to the church secretary today, though, even though last Sunday was iced out for us due to online giving and other things of that nature. The church more than made its regular budget numbers.
Nice.
Go figure. God is good.
God is good.
You're speaking of snow, and we get it occasionally, but the people in the Midwest kind of laugh at us when we say everything's paralyzed with 2 inches of snow. What they don't understand is when the snow falls here, it's very wet and heavy, so it's like driving on Crisco. And not only do we have snow,
I like that,
at the hills and the mountains and the overpasses, so for safety's sake, most people stay home.
Yeah.
Well, even an inch, a half inch really in Atlanta we just don't have the infrastructure. Some of the roads can get brined. You'll see the occasional snow plow, but quite rare, as opposed to, the Ohio, Columbus, any of that where you see them constantly.
They know exactly how to handle it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Here,
and are prepped.
I don't think I've ever seen a snow plow in 13 years since 11 years since we've been here.
Mm-hmm.
But brine trucks is about it. There was somebody.
Still, that's pretty good.
Yeah. It wasn't that way when we first moved here either. So they've learned from the big blizzard a couple of years ago that just paralyzed the whole state. I think they ramped up their prep. But part of the problem this time was that even though the temperatures warmed up during the day, everything refroze because it dropped back down into the teens overnight. And so it was this guessing game whether we were going to have school the next day or not. Every day where the kids are hanging on, are we going to school? Are we going to school? And the parents, we all kind of knew it wasn't going to happen, but for some reason the schools were holding out hope, I guess, that somehow that things would change, but it never did. So for the most part, we all stayed safe. We stayed here. A bunch of kids around us in school systems around us did not, however. Being teenagers and thinking you're going to live forever means thinking it's a great idea to get in a kayak and have a guy in an ATV drag you behind it. Usually doesn't turn out well. And that happened in at least 4 different incidents around us.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah, not great. And it was all over the course of the week, and it was all kids in early high school age that did it. But when you're 16, you think you're invulnerable and you'll live forever. Well, I guess the big news of the week. Want to get your thoughts on the absolute insanity that has been the state of Minnesota. Donny, you've probably got the best of the bunch here today, the best insight on what is going on in Minnesota. Want to get your thoughts on everything we've seen. I have recorded 3 different episodes, and before I can put them out, something changes that makes what I said in in my recording completely irrelevant. So I record something new, and then something else has happened. It has been the craziest week and a half, really.
It's, well, let's just say it's Minnesota. Second most, it's the second biggest tax burden in the country.
Oh,
They keep raising the income tax. They have pretty high sales tax. Property taxes are, I think, more normal, but they have all these people who live here that aren't citizens. You don't have to prove citizenship to vote in Minnesota.
doesn't Minnesota have that system where you can vouch for people? Did I read that somewhere?
There's a system where you can actually vote from home, and we got the ones that says you'll never have to go to the poll again. We got those things. I am not voting again in Minnesota because by the time voting time comes along in the fall, I will be a resident of Montana.
Oh, yeah.
And Montana, it has a totally different government.
Yeah.
Well, the problem in Minnesota is there's 8 congressional districts in the state. 4 of them are in this little dot called the Twin Cities. They're all controlled by extremely liberal Democrats. I'm not so sure that at least one of them may not be a citizen. You have to not prove anything to vote in Minnesota. And the rest of the state is all more conservative. It's farming area. So the other 4 districts are all red districts, let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
I, quite frankly, well, I think the good thing that happened in it is there were some people that were going to disrupt a church service and went rushing in, and they're facing federal charges right now on violation of the rights the
FAST Act of
Amendment number
1994.
1. Yeah. That's part of it. I can't wait to get out of here. Taxes are high. My license on my 20-year-old pickup truck, which when I license it in Montana, I'll probably pay $30 and never have to license it again. $85 this year on that. And then our passenger car, $450. So and I'm tired because we're paying the taxes for all these illegals that are welcomed into Minnesota. And
that's the thing that really bugs me.
I mean, let's face it. There's been it's a mess. I think we had a guy who's no longer here who was kind of trigger happy on the other end of it.
Yeah. What's the consensus? This seems to be the case in most of the country, that your major cities are blue and everywhere else is red. Outside of the Twin Cities, what seems to be the consensus about immigration enforcement?
The state tries to push it on them, but they're very, most of the people who live outside of the metro area, they're tend to be fairly conservative. They agriculture is a big part of that business. Um, um, there's just a lot of they feel that they're being, well, we call especially Minneapolis the People's Republic of. The other thing, yeah, I don't know. Did any of you guys who are LCMS hear about what's going on with one of the district presidents?
In Illinois.
Yeah, Central Illinois district. That's sad. That's sad.
Fill me in. For those who don't know, who are listening or watching, fill us in. And I must admit I'm not up on this. So what's going on?
Well, he's been federally arrested for for producing and distributing child pornography.
Oh, I did see that. Yes. Yeah. Not good.
Yeah. Just what we I got a thing yesterday from a friend that was the letter that was sent out by President Harrison.
Mm. Curtis, one of the things that I pointed out, I think in one of the last episodes was, we've seen other people point this out, so I'm not like trying to toot my horn and say that this is some revelation that only I have figured out, but we've noticed ICE is working all over the country, in every state, in Curtis's state, in Tim's state, in my state, in David's state. But all this madness is only happening in Minnesota.
Oh,
are we seeing anything like that in your states? The kind of madness and opposition to ICE enforcement? Or is this a symptom just of Minnesota? And I suspect it has something to do with distracting people from massive amounts of fraud going on that I suspect certain people have their fingers in. But what's going on in your states? And you don't even, aside from some around here, aside from some high schoolers who think it's a great excuse to, skip school to go protest about ICE when it doesn't really affect them. There's nothing really going on here. ICE is still working and rounding people up, but the craziness is not following. What do you see in your states? Curtis, what's going on you're in Kansas, right?
Yeah, same thing happened here. I don't know who organized it, but yeah, the high school was supposed to have some sort of walkout that it was so cold here. I think that kind of fell apart. So it didn't go real far, and that's kind of part of my thing is somebody's instigating this. A bunch of high schoolers, I can't believe, are really that involved in thinking that they got to get out. In Midwestern, we're pretty rural country here. Yeah, there's an Army base next to us, so we're pretty, I just don't think this is happening without somebody in there stirring the pot. So, yeah.
I did see somewhere, some school district, it was discovered that the teachers, or that some teachers in some schools were actually giving students passes so they wouldn't be counted as absent if they attended the protests, if they walked out. So, yeah, I agree. I think this isn't spontaneous. And for kids, any excuse to go skip school. Hand me a sign and I'm out of here. Tim, how about you? What's going on in Washington?
Oh, Washington, my heavens.
And you've got a very similar situation where certain, what is it, Seattle and is Tacoma in that sort of that
Tacoma
same?
Is in that same area. In fact, if you go down the entire east side of the Puget Sound, it's pretty much synonymous, the same thing.
You get
Bellingham all the way down to Olympia.
Yeah. And eastward, it's very, very rural and very conservative.
It is, yeah. The place I live, which is Kitsap County, is sort of like a purplish kind of a place. But once you get south of Olympia and once you get east of the Cascades, it's with the exception of Spokane, it is very conservative. Yeah, we've had some issues here. A lot of it's at the discussion stage. We had one scare last night where someone intercepted a signal chat between some folks, and they were announcing a shutdown of one of the major highways going through where I live, Bremerton, which would be very, very stupid on anybody's level because you have 3 strategically important bases on this little strip of land we've got. So even if the locals couldn't manage it, DOD would
will take care of it really quick.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everyone thought it was a hoax. Even the Washington State Patrol wasn't sure. So they really enhanced the patrols they had in the area that these guys were going to try. Now, either it was a hoax or they looked at the situation and thought that's really a bad idea and backed off, one or the other.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, the Minneapolis thing has really stirred up a lot of conversation, a lot of it concerning both the 5th and 6th commandments and also just general law. Of course, the 5th is thou shalt not murder, and the 6th is honor your mother and
adultery.
father. I think I reversed that.
You got it backwards. It's the 4th and the 5th.
I got it backwards. Yeah, okay. I'm not
I was like, there's a lot of adultery going on in Washington State that we don't know about.
Well, that's
probably true too.
That might actually. That's true everywhere.
Yeah, but even just law. I mean, if you look at 18 U.S. Code 1357, that gives the immigration enforcement, the authority to do what they do. I mean, they can grab people off the street without a warrant. It's an administrative process, not criminal, and the entire point is to get them sent home without any kind of criminal basis on that. But if you also look at 8 U.S. Code 111, it really defines what assault is on a federal officer and the performance of his duties and the authority to do what he has to do. Now, in the 2 that were shot by immigration officers, forget the video. I mean, these people were right in the middle of a law enforcement action interfering, and one of them tried to run over a cop, whether it be intentionally or not. And the other one was just getting in officers' faces, and he was armed. So I mean, I really can't see the controversy, but when you bring this up to people who, support immigration, illegal immigration, they just change the subject right away. They're not interested in facts whatsoever. So
we'll get to that in just a second. I do want to come back to that. David, what are you seeing going on in Georgia? You're muted, by the way. There we go.
Yeah. Personally, haven't seen a lot. We are in a college town here, and so get a little bit of
where everyone's armed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Greatest city ordinance in the entire country.
So the man who put that city ordinance into play in the early 1980s was a member of our church.
Oh, you told me that once. That is so cool.
His son is one of my best buddies. So, anyway, so, you're seeing some anti-ICE kind of things. I think, Curtis, you sort of nailed it. It's a lot of high schoolers that don't have anything better to do. Lloyd, you mentioned that. So I haven't seen anything negative or difficult. There's certainly been no
altercation.
Again, we're having a cold snap, whether that Donny or Curtis, it doesn't really apply to your situation, but it does help. And so I don't see that, a whole lot going on. It's fascinating to watch in the news. It just, SMH shaking my head kind of things. For the most part, we have, paid particular attention to the situation as it applied to that church, because, if any of this is going to be directed at churches and involving an attack on churches' worship services, now we do get very interested. And we've had some discussions. Again, being in Kennesaw, it's probably not a good idea to do that. So,
definitely not. All right. So I want to get back to the church thing too in a moment, but I want to go back to something that Tim touched on, talking about the Alex Preddy shooting. The controversy that got stirred up and even has stirred up the Pro 2A groups like Gun Owners of America and even NRA in response to what I think were, to put it mildly, ill-advised statements by certain members of the Trump's administration regarding your right to carry and the fact that Alex Preddy was carrying and had additional magazines with him. I was really disappointed by, and I think all three of them need to be fired, Kash Patel, Kristi Noem, and Greg Bovino, all three of them labeling this guy as, based on the fact that he was legally carrying a firearm. Now, just based on that fact, and they doubled down on it a couple of different times, suggesting that proves intent to harm law enforcement or to cause damage, as I think a couple of them said, slaughter law enforcement. That was egregiously stupid. And I wanted to get all of your take on that and the fallout from it, because we've already seen groups like Giffords use Kash Patel's words against your right to carry. And we see all over the country, every time we have a Pro 2A protest, there's guns galore and extra magazines everywhere. People festooned with magazines, but nobody ever gets hurt and no police officers are ever assaulted. The statements made, what do you make of the statements made by Patel and Noem? And we'll leave Trump for another. Trump tried to clean it up and did it very inartfully. But what do you guys make of those statements? Curtis, let's start with you. What do you think?
Well, I think they jumped the gun a lot. I don't know. I've seen videos where it looked like he was disarmed, and I seen some video that they showed that this weapon that he carried had a tendency to fire when the fingers weren't on the trigger. And kind of what I've seen out of it is it looks like they took the gun away from him. It accidentally fired. Somebody yelled gun and all hell broke loose.
Apparently, according to the report, the gun did not discharge, although I've seen video and it's hard to tell. But apparently in the middle of that scrum where everybody can, the guys are all piled in there and all they can see is assholes and elbows, pardon my French, and somebody yells gun, gun, gun. If I'm at the bottom of that pile, I'm scared for my life. Right?
Yeah.
Now, apart from the shooting, though, I have my opinions, but I don't know whether it's a good shoot or a bad. I wasn't there. But I've seen no evidence of the kinds of things that they have imputed to him about his intent to harm people simply because he was carrying a gun. Because we've all been out in public carrying guns. Some of us have probably been to protests carrying guns. And that's never, I just, like with Renee Good, I don't see the evidence that he intended to harm people. It was not a good idea to carry a gun to a protest and then get involved. That was dumb. But I don't see any evidence. Like you said, Curtis, I think they probably spoke a little too soon about what happened.
Yeah, I don't think he showed that he was there intent on shooting people, you know. Yeah, I mean, interfering with a law enforcement, you're in a felony already. Carrying a weapon in a felony is not a smart thing. So he wasn't real smart, but that doesn't justify how things escalated so quickly.
Right.
You know. Yeah, he got labeled bad, but just like Renee Good, people make bad decisions and things go wrong.
Yep. Tim, your thoughts?
What really helped form my opinion about this was training. I've been through hundreds of hours of firearms training through professionals, and much of that was scenario training. And, the basic firearms training will show you, okay, here's how you hold the thing. Here's how you improve your marksmanship. And here's some tactics that are useful. But unless you actually go into a tack house, or unless you actually go into an unknown situation, even though they're paper representations of bad guys and good guys, you have very little time to make decisions. So based on that, first of all, Mr. Purdy was already known by law enforcement, by the feds, because he had interfered with their actions prior to. In fact, he was literally kicking a van these guys were in, to the point where they actually had to stop and then stop him from kicking the van.
Mm-hmm.
So he turns up again. They recognize this guy. Once again, he gets in law enforcement's faces in the middle of law enforcement action. They were doing their job.
On top of that, he's dressed exactly the same. He's wearing exactly the same outfit. So if you're one of those agents and you've seen this guy before, a week earlier, kicking the rear tail light off of your vehicle.
And now the same guy turns up and he's got a firearm. Okay.
Yeah.
Who grabbed it and who fired first and all that is, I won't say irrelevant, but I say more relevant is what the officers had to deal with psychologically. Okay, here's a guy who's already been a pain, to the point of being violent, and now he's got a firearm. Whether he reached for it or not, I don't know. Whether he had a phone in his hand, I don't know. But in some scenario training, I have shot somebody who just had a cell phone in his hand simply because of the way he grabbed it. Okay, it was a very quick reaction. He grabbed it out of his belt, and all of a sudden I had less than a tenth of a second to decide, and I shot the guy square in the chest. Well, the picture, right? Square in the chest. And he had a phone in his hand. Okay, so unless you've actually been through that, forming an opinion on what happened is really, really hard to do.
And there have been studies about this, the tendency to, when you slow things down in slow motion, those watching videos in slow motion only tends to confirm your biases.
It does.
You see the things you want to see.
Have you ever watched the movie Sully?
It's not.
A pilot by the name of Sullenberger. He was the guy who put the thing
yeah.
Watch the movie. It's actually pretty good characterization. Of course, it's Hollywooded up a bit.
Is that Tom Hanks?
Tom Hanks.
Yeah. Right. If you look toward the very end, you can see how the NTSB set up all these scenarios, and they said, yeah, you could have landed safely at Teterboro or, LaGuardia or wherever. But, of course, he asked the question, how many times did they do that before they got it right? Okay, Sully had one shot at it, okay, and he used his best judgment in the best way he could. So you put that kind of scenario in front of these law enforcement officers who are already getting yelled at, they're already getting kicked by people, people are blowing whistles in their ears, and they go up there with the idea that they're going to be meeting pretty fierce resistance to begin with.
And local police are doing nothing to control the crowds.
Correct. So let's wait and see what the investigation has. I rarely comment on these things until at least 3 or 4 days has passed, until all the facts start to come out.
Yeah.
The people that were making these statements, like our government people, which was really stupid, were making these determinations within hours. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's incredibly harmful to the Second Amendment, our rights, for them to come out and suggest that you can't take a gun to a protest, and that obviously proves that you're intending on hurting someone if you do.
Well, it's awful, but it's lawful. All right? It's really stupid to do that.
And I tried to point this out to somebody online. I was like, they said, somebody commented in one of the discussions I was in that, yes, you can do this. You can lawfully use a firearm to resist an unlawful arrest. And I said, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And then he resorted to calling me names. So, yeah, not the smartest of moves on his part. It doesn't mean that he deserved to die. It doesn't mean that this is a good shoot or a bad shoot. It was just a bad decision on his part. If he had stayed home, if Renee Good had stayed home, if they'd stayed on the sidewalk and blown their stupid whistles instead of getting out in the middle of the street, both of them would be alive today. It's
well, people who run across a crowded interstate shouldn't be, don't deserve to die either, but it's their own foolish judgment that did it to them.
Yes, exactly. Donnie, your thoughts? You're in the epicenter of it all.
Well, amazingly, that's what was on 6 channels on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And amazingly, they got a hold of one of the big 2A guys from Minnesota. He tried to explain stuff and said obviously wasn't a good thing to do, but he did have a carry permit.
Yeah.
And
Perfectly
they were trying
legal.
to nail they were trying to nail that this is why we need to get rid of all guns, and as the old bumper sticker said, when guns are outlawed, only outlaws will have guns.
Yeah,
but I just, when that stuff goes on, it just, it just makes me more sure of where I want to move to, because they have constitutional carry there.
Yep.
You don't need a permit to carry. But it's all some of this liberal crap that says the gun's the problem, not the people.
Well, and it's interesting now, though, that Alex Preddy having been shot and the response from Trump's administration has now made the media sound like they're pro 2A, because they're framing this as he was legally carrying, and listen to what the Trump's administration is saying in response. How can they say these things when it's perfectly legal for him to carry? He was a concealed carry permit. So now the tables have turned because of the stupidity of the people at the top in the Trump administration. The things that they said in the immediate aftermath, when they're the top law enforcement officials in the country, they should know that what they're saying is stupid. They should just keep their mouth shut. They should have said what we were saying. Perfectly legal for him to carry there. It was not a good idea for him to carry there.
Absolutely, and it's just unbelievable. The governor and attorney general, quite frankly, need to be in jail.
Yeah.
And they are.
Walz is still talking Civil War crap. I cannot believe him.
Yeah, well, his latest statement is he'll never run for any office again, and I say hallelujah, praise the Lord.
He compared Minnesota to Fort Sumter.
And it's all about Minnesota, Illinois, and a few other states do not want to. They want these illegal aliens there. And I don't, they suck on the economy. They suck the blood out of the economy. And I mean,
and abuse legal citizens, our citizens. The murders, the rapes.
And we have a vacancy pastor, and if he brings it up one more time, I'm walking out of church.
Oh no! Is he doing the whole Jesus was a refugee thing?
He is. We have a bunch of very liberal people in our congregation, and he is just he's done the end of June. We're on our second call process right now. The first one was a guy from South Dakota, where there's no income tax. It costs about living costs there are 50% of what they are here.
Yeah.
And And people are saying, well, why didn't he come here? Everybody wants to come here. I know a lot of people I know, even some that are towards the more liberal side, want out here too. Because I just I don't understand it. I was raised in a different way. I've got five
all
siblings.
of us were.
I got 5 siblings. 2 of the other ones, amazingly, the oldest one, my brother, that's not amazing. He lives North Austin now, not Minnesota, but Austin, Texas.
Okay.
And my baby sister, I have a son that's older than she is. We're that way. And the rest of my family are like the people in the streets in Minnesota.
That's
And
gotta
it's
be
just
tough
it
at
just
family
makes
get-togethers.
it really hard. We don't talk about it. My younger brother I'll deal with him as long as his one daughter isn't with him, and we just don't talk that stuff for family peace.
Yeah.
But I want out of here, and we've got the plan is ticking now. We got about 6 months, and then we'll be out of here. Hopefully, there may be one little thing. I've got a really bad knee, and I may need to get it done before I leave, and go on Medicare.
Gotcha. David, I want to get your thoughts on the reaction from the Trump administration in the immediate aftermath, and what that does for us in terms of gun rights going forward.
The phrase that goes through my head is "act in haste, repent at leisure." Because we've got a lot of people overreacting, and so people are shooting from the hip, to make the pun worse.
Oh, God.
To make it worse. But people are shooting from the hip, and they're not considering what they're saying. Then they have to back up, and this is unfortunately you've got people, and I understand being pushed into questions, and so a lot of it is this, and I just see that there's so much of that people are just slapping at their answers instead of considering the questions, and they're being placed in places where they have to answer quickly, and I think it's endemic of a lack of thoughtful work, both in asking the questions and delivering the answers. One of the things that I do see that is a rising good thing is that I am seeing a lot of people, and Lloyd, you've actually said this tonight, and I've seen a lot of this in the more conservative media, are people who are now saying, I will not answer until I've seen 72 hours go, until we have all the things in. And the more I hear that, the more I listen to those people. Because, I mean, to be honest, it's actually a biblical approach. If you look in Matthew 5 and 6, Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, you see the direct thing that says the day's trouble is sufficient for the day. Don't, the 2 old phrases, don't cross your bridges before you get there, and don't count your chickens before they're hatched. And so I like to say, don't cross your bridges before they're hatched, but
burn your bridges before you get there.
Yeah. But I'm seeing a positive movement there, especially among conservatives that say, I'm not going to answer stupid questions. until
Let's
we
just
have
wait for more info before we pass judgment here.
Let's not pass judgment. Tim, you're speaking of training. I'm sure you're familiar with John Farnham's work, and he says, don't do stupid things in stupid places at stupid times, stupid people.
Yep.
And I've heard people say, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. And I think that describes a lot of the activity, both in the microcosm of the event itself and in the macro sense of, people who are getting into discussions they don't need to have, weighing in on things and trying to push an agenda that they would be better off to wait on. So, I don't
news
follow
cycle,
all of those
unfortunately,
things.
the news cycle,
Tremendously
unfortunately, doesn't allow for that. And
absolutely. Because pain sells clicks.
Yeah. It's
Geraldo Rivera once said that buildings that don't burn don't make the news.
That's true.
Absolutely true.
That's true. But it's sad because people are playing stupidly, and it's like nobody ever played chess before. Nobody is thinking to anticipate these questions. All of us have been, Donny, you mentioned, the debate with, people have different values and worldviews, even in your own family, mine too. And it's like, but I know what they're going to say, and from an apologetics standpoint, if you've done any kind of apologetics as a Christian, you understand or should understand, that there are some questions that people are going to ask you and you should have an answer ready to go. And it should be a well thought out answer, not something that you're going to have to back up and start firing people to cover your backside.
Yeah.
I just, it pains me to see those overreactions that cause unintended consequences.
Yeah. You would expect to see that in the chat rooms online, on X or on Facebook or anywhere else.
Oh, yeah.
It's really disappointing to see our top law enforcement officials, top administration officials doing it.
Yeah.
At the very least, apply, like you said, apply that 72-hour rule. And if you get one of those questions, it's a setup. Just say, we're going to wait until all the information comes out.
Right.
And then we'll give you a more definitive answer.
Yes. And, and can you identify intent by what people are carrying? That's
not.
like saying I have a fire extinguisher in my car, so I intend to have a fire.
Well, that's all about manifest intent too. Intent nobody can say. Nobody can look in anyone else's heart. However, if you're doing things that look like you're going to do something, that's manifest intent, and you can act on that.
Yes, you can. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's entirely different. And but I do think that there's a lot of stupidity stacked on stupidity, like pancakes at IHOP.
With some stupid syrup on top of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's incredibly irresponsible on the part of the governor, the mayor, the attorney general in Minnesota to all continue to encourage people to go out and fight and talk about the Civil War stuff when it's getting people killed.
And it's not historic. They're not even using these things in historically accurate manners either.
Yes, that's very true. That also assumes that the majority of American people have any any grasp of history at all.
Well, it's the same thing that you have said for years about people speaking out of context in biblical, the proof texting things out of, instead of speaking in things that are in context. And it's just like, how much stupider are we going to get?
Yep.
Pardon my grammar, but that was part of
that
the play.
That makes it even better.
Yeah. But,
well, I think we've come up on the top of the hour. Guys, I appreciate you taking the time, and I really wanted to get, I'm glad, Donny, especially that you were here because you're in the middle of all this madness. Wanted to get your take. I had hoped that Pastor Bennett would be here as well, but I think he's got something else going on tonight with the family. So thank you all for being here and continuing to support the show and to listen. And thank you for your input tonight. And we'll get together again next month.
Can I make a comment?
Oh, you absolutely can. I am not going to cut you guys off.
This is from, I think it was 2 podcasts ago on your State of the State.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And first off, you're going to have my full 100% support, to make it to 500 or whatever. I mean, but also you talked about people not reviewing your books, and I went on and tried to do some reviews. And I
is Amazon killing me?
Well, I think the first book I bought from you was Duty to Defend.
Yep.
And maybe it was so long ago that it won't let me review that one.
I may have seen your review actually on that one. Yeah.
Okay. But even the other ones that I bought directly from you, I don't know how I can get in and make a review on those. So maybe if you could come up with a link or something, or, I'm just all for helping you out. I don't know if there's any way, that some sort of group could continue on if you reach 500 and determine that it's going to end there or whatever. Because, anytime you can get a group of Christians that have, Christianity, 2A, loving guns, and enjoying company, that's a good group to be a part of. So
it is.
You've got my full support. I hope you have a few XL T-shirts because I'll probably try to buy you out of them before they're all gone or something. But
that before we go, we'll run a little bit over here because you brought up the church thing, and I wanted to come back to that. What, in response to the Don Lemon lists and all of the idiocy, the people storming the church, and everybody's now outraged that Don Lemon has been arrested for violation of the FACE Act. What do you think? Because we've seen, I think it was a Minnesota lawmaker who actually came out and said that she wants to see more churches stormed if they're conservative. How do you think we should prepare for that kind of thing? What is your church doing? Or has your church discussed that in light of the most recent events? I know after some of the church shootings in recent years, we've had a move towards church security. This is very different. Have any of your churches or members of your church or members of the board of elders or clergy, have you had discussions about what do we do if this happens?
We have we've done some things with cameras and stuff around there. I know there's people who carry in the church. There's a lot of people in my church that think it's illegal to do that. It is not illegal to do it in Minnesota if you have a carry permit. The exception is they can put up a sign that says, and it has to be exactly. If it's a millimeter off, it's not a legal sign. Which means you can't photocopy it, obviously.
Kind of like the 30-06 and 30-07 signs we have here in Texas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, it says that you can't carry on this property. And actually, the way it reads in Minnesota is the pastor and the church board can decide that.
Right.
To do it. we don't have a sign. People think that you're not supposed to. When I was the elder representing on the safety committee, I brought it up several times and I got shot down like you can't believe, because you have to have all this training, and it's like, no, you don't. You have to have a carry permit. And that's a day of training and 20 bullets or something like that. You have to show that you
you're
know
talking
how to
about being
operate the
allowed to
gun and
carry in
hit
the
a
church,
target.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I quite frankly, I get scared sometimes thinking somebody now to be really honest to you, we're about as far away from where the stuff's going on as you can be and still be in the Twin Cities.
Gotcha.
We're on the northeast edge. We're in the county that St. Paul's in, and not in the People's Republic of Hennepin County. But I think that there's going to be more targeting of churches, to tell you the truth.
Yep.
Now we happen to we're suburban, but we're right on a lake. We actually have a guy who open carries in church. He just happens to be a sergeant in the White Bear Lake Police Department. Trust me, most of the people in my church don't understand it. Like I say, they do now have the ushers are supposed to monitor these cameras during the service to make sure nobody rushes in.
Right.
But I'm prepared to hit my knees behind the pew.
Tim, you were raising your hand, but I wanted to get your thoughts too.
Yeah, as far as security goes, when services start, all doors are locked, every one of them. And there's someone at the main door to get in, to let people in as they come in. There's about a half a dozen of us that are, let's just say, well-equipped. And a few of us that even have some training on that, not just, point and pull the trigger, but also how to de-escalate, how to get problem people out of the way, so to minimize the disturbance. How to handle mentally ill people. I mean, to a degree, we're not psychoanalysts by any means, but at least we can stop danger. Firearm retention, how to remove a firearm from somebody if you're within bad breath range. But also, anybody who's in the narthex in front of the church is watching that parking lot. And if they see anything weird, they know that there's some people that they can reach out to say, hey, does this look right? There are some people, there's a lot of homeless where we are. So every now and again, some come in, which is fine. We watch them. We did have an incident about a year ago, as a matter of fact, where one came in open carrying, and we turned him away. We said, no, you got to leave. And that was close enough where if he reached for it, I could have stopped him. But he did turn around and leave peacefully.
Right.
Our church isn't really big on security. God will save us kind of a thing. But, hey, God gave us the tools to save ourselves as well. So there's about a half dozen of us sheepdogs, and we keep an eye on things, and the doors are locked. Nothing much more than that. Kitsap County, you can look it up on a map. We're surrounded by water, which means we have a moat between us and Seattle and Tacoma. So there's a little bit of protection. But at the same time, we're keeping our eyes open.
Gotcha. Curtis?
Yeah, well, same thing. We lock our doors about 5 minutes after the service starts. And as elders, we've discussed some security, but to stay away from the whole organized security team sort of thing. We don't do an organized thing, but we do talk about it. And occasionally some of us might get together and do some things like
more of
that.
An informal security
as
team.
Far as who is well equipped, what they don't know, don't hurt them.
Exactly. David, you're in the most heavily armed town in America. What is your church's? Have you guys talked about this since that incident, and how do you handle church security?
Yes, we've not had one of our training meetings yet since that, but leadership has talked about that. And Tim, we also have a group of 17, 18 people right now. We have 2 services, 4 buildings that we cover, not only for Sunday services, but certain midweek opportunities as well. I have an off-duty policeman that serves with us on Sunday. You laugh about Kennesaw, Lloyd, but we have talked about the biggest problem we have is crossfire. And because
when you got that many people.
Georgia law, however, as open as it appears to be initially, is actually a little bit more tight about things than people expect. When you have a church that has a school as a part of its ministry,
right,
the laws change.
Okay.
And now you have to have a group. The only people who are technically allowed to carry in that situation are those who have been approved by the administration. Okay. And so that is not legal advice. That is my understanding of what's going on at the time. Gotcha. And and we do have an approved list. But that is not every person on our safety team. We do, Tim, we do try to train folks, but it's mostly scenario and discussion kind of things. We have had training events with live scenario play, in situation live scenario play. So we've actually gone into the facility and had people who were acting those kind of things, including some loud noises that were made. And so it's we'd love to have more training. And Tim, I'd love to have your training background. That's fantastic. So yeah, we've talked about it. Our big thing that we try to do is let's try and keep trouble outside. Our doors are locked. There is, during services, the only doors that are open is the one door that this one of y'all said you have somebody at the door. So because we have services at different ends of our campus, wherever that service is, there is one door that is open, but there is a person right there who is watching those kind of things. We have people, we typically have the 4 corners of our facility. So if we're in a sanctuary room, we'll have the 4 corners covered, and we'll have a person on the pastor. So we play in a basketball terminology. We play one-on-one coverage for the pastor and zone coverage for everybody else. Those are not the only people serving. We have people who are at the perimeter of those facilities. So if in our sanctuary, then we have people outside the sanctuary, and then we have people who are roaming the entire campus. So at different points, and everybody's on radios, and we're in close contact with our off-duty officers. And so in the event, and we've had a couple of medical, 90% of what goes on is medical. It's not
right.
And we've had a couple of folks who've been off their meds, and somebody who wanted to dance around the place once, kind of stuff. But so most of it's medical that we have to deal with. But we're trying to be better at it. We have done some kind of things. Tim, I think we're trying to get everybody. Georgia has police officer standards training post, Georgia Post law enforcement, that we're trying to get everybody certed at that level.
As far as putting the object on the mark, that's one thing. But to make decisions quickly and get, bullets on target, that's...
One great person who's on our team was actually he's retired, of course, at this point, but he was actually a fighter pilot.
Nice.
And we have learned so much from this man.
About decision making and quick thinking, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Curve, orient, decide, and act. Yeah.
Yep.
OODA loop.
OODA. Yep.
Yep.
So that's one of his favorite.
If you get a chance, watch Ed Monk videos. ED Monk, Monk.
I've got his book. I'm starting to read through his book.
He's an expert in mass shootings and how they happen and the history behind them, and even stats. So if you have to convince your church leadership, you can get a lot of good information from him. Yeah,
I saw that on Greg Ellifrit's list, and bought that. So
homework for next time, because this is all very fresh. If your church discusses how to handle a situation like what we saw it wasn't in Minneapolis, was it? It was in St. Paul. Is that right, Donny? It was a Baptist church in St. Paul, I think.
Yeah, or the St. Paul area.
Yeah.
Actually, I looked up that church. It's not Baptist.
Is it not?
It's Christian denomination.
So it's Baptist, probably.
I thought it was Baptist. I actually told somebody it was Baptist.
Most of the churches around here who say, well, we're non-denominational, they're Baptist.
That means Baptist. Baptistic.
So
what's your problem?
I don't know why they want to conceal it. It just doesn't make any sense. So if your church security team, if your leadership group discusses this specific incident, because this is very different from the mass shooter kind of situation. This is a big group of people who are not maybe physically violent, but they're going to force their way into your church and then yell at you. I'm curious to know, when you guys, each of your groups, discuss this, and if you haven't, maybe bring it up. How do you handle it? I saw, for example, Pastor Guillaume Williams, said, well, if they come in, just start singing, just pick a hymn and start singing and just sing over the top of them. And maybe one of them maybe they'll give up. I'm not sure that's a great idea. I like the intent behind, I admire the intent behind it, but I'm not sure I trust that much, because they're not there to persecute you for your faith. They're actually yelling about their politics and your politics. So it's a whole different thing. So, but I don't necessarily think it will you don't know, but I don't think they stormed that church intending to physically assault people. They intended to break up and interrupt your service or their service and yell at them. So I'm curious to know if that's a scenario that your church is considered, and what do you do if that does happen? Because are you going to start pointing guns at people, or do you have a plan to get people out safely so that there are no confrontations? I'm just curious to know what your churches decide, if you discuss it, how to handle that. So that's your homework assignment for next month.
Did you, by the way, this is not the first time this has happened. You remember the handmaiden thing on abortion a few years back, about 4 years ago. 5.
The whole handmaiden thing is so tiring. But yes,
granted.
Yeah,
but it's not this is not the first time these kind of incidents have appeared in churches.
Right. Yeah. But and it just because it's so different from the guy who comes in and immediately starts shooting, like the Sutherland Springs thing, or we've seen it a million times, unfortunately. Their whole intent is just to Stephen Williford. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
They're just intending to create a little havoc and interrupt everything. So I'm curious to know how your church discusses it and what your thoughts are on how you will handle it. So that's the homework assignment for February's Hangout. All right. Guys, thanks again. Great to see you and great to talk to you. And have a great February, and I'll talk to you next month.
We'll see you later.
All right. God bless,
Sounds
guys.
good.
For show notes, be sure to visit our website at www.armedlutheran.us. Check out the Facebook page, The Armed Lutheran, or join our Facebook group, Fans of Armed Lutheran Radio. If you like what you hear, please leave us a comment on our feedback page at armedlutheran.us/feedback or a review on iTunes and let us know what you think. Thank you for listening to Armed Lutheran Radio.